What's up, everybody? This is your host, Rob, with the Homegrown Helpers, bringing you another week of an interview where I spend some time with a home grower just like you that's ready to share their story, their history, their trials, their tribulations, all for your benefit. Don't make the same mistakes they do. Listen to the interviews, learn from them, try different things, but it's all about getting better. Getting better in the garden, helping your plants be better, growing better cannabis, bigger cannabis, more cannabis. That's what it's all about, guys. And today's interview delivers on that promise. It's a little different. It's a little different style. And again, this is why I love doing this, is to help you guys find the grow style that's right for you. When I started this project, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to prove out whether there was a right or a wrong way to grow cannabis. But what I am proving is that there's a bunch of different ways to grow great cannabis. And I hope that you find the way that works for you. Today, we are kicking off a series where I feature some growers from the Coco for Cannabis Grow Challenges. You know, they're kicking off another one. You'll hear a little bit more about that from Dr. Coco here in the next couple minutes. I'll let him kick off the intro, tell him about the Grow Challenges. But, you know, we have 3 weeks of growers from the Grow Challenges, and regulars on the Coco for Cannabis forums. And then we wrap it up with an interview where you get to hear Dr. Coco answer my questions and some questions that you've never really heard him talk about, and problems that you've never really heard him talk about, because that's what we do here. We talk about the problems to help you avoid them. So today on the show, I chatted up with Bill, and from Orange County. He's OC grower, and he grows in a completely different style than what you guys typically hear on the show. He has 24 plants in flower at all times. He's rocking the sea of green, and you get to hear the exact whys, the particulars, why he chose that style. And then we dig into selection, strain selection, mom selection, things that he has done since he has to, keep a mom and, take cuttings from them. Because, I mean, if you're taking 24 flowering plants, you don't want to have 48 beans all popping out, especially as a home grower. I mean, the breeder guys definitely do that, and the larger guys definitely do that. But as a home grower, you don't need to be popping 48 beans, 50 beans to try and get 24 female plants. So we cover, really why the sea green, why 24 plants. And then we wrap things up. And, as we wrap things up, I'd just like you to consider they have a plant training growing challenge coming up. And we'd love for you to be a part of that. Before we get over to that, we're going to thank today's partner, Buxton Hollow Farm. And you can find them at buxtonhollowfarm.com. Use the code GCL10 on their compost tea kits, their biochar, their supercharged biochar, worm castings, tons of organic inputs for your organic gardening practices. Show them some love, show them some appreciation. Follow them on Instagram, buxtonhollowfarm.com. Thanks to those guys. And without further ado, let's kick it over to first Dr. Coco to just talk about the introduction to Coco for Cannabis and the forums, and then we'll kick it right into the interview with Bill. What's up, everybody? I am here with Dr. Coco. You all know him from Growcast and his forums and his challenges, and we're kicking off a month-long series with Dr. Coco right now, and we'd like Dr. Coco to kind of kick it off and tell us from his perspective why he started the Coco for Cannabis website, the forums, and the Grow Challenges. That you have another one coming up middle of August, right?
We sure do, yeah. Our next challenge is the Plant Training Grow Challenge. Let me say hello to your audience there, Rob. MJ Coco, like you said, from cocoforcannabis.com. And yeah, the Plant Training Grow Challenge, which is going to start, we're doing a flexible start on the Plant Training Grow Challenge. So the idea here with this one is to get everybody to flip or to start flowering on the same day. So we can be a little bit flexible on the day that you start. If you want a little bit longer veg, you can start a little bit earlier. If you want a shorter veg, you can start a little bit later. But the flip date is October 1st. So most growers are going to get going in mid-August. Sort of August 15th is kind of the unofficial start date that a number of growers will start on. But we're launching the forum on August 1st, and some growers probably won't start until September that want a shorter veg time for this. And it's going to be a really fun challenge. I've got a whole steering committee involved in this one. I have a prize coordinator, a challenge coordinator. I have social media girl, Miss Mercine.
Nice.
I have, group leader coordinator, and we've already got group leaders designated. So we're going to have groups for topping, for not topping. We're going to have a special group for mainlines and manifolds, and then a group for misfits, which is basically going to be people that don't know what they're going to do when they start. And the grow challenges are an opportunity for everybody to sort of grow together, to be coordinated in the same time. It's a great chance for new growers to be able to ask a bunch of questions and follow along with sort of mentor growers that have been doing this for a long time. It's a wonderful opportunity to sort of get support and feel like you're part of a community. And that really gets back to sort of the larger question there that you are getting at, which is sort of about the forum and why we're doing this sort of stuff in the first place. A lot of it really is to support that sense of community. So one of our sort of slogans is, in the spirit of collaboration. And we try to really foster the spirit of collaboration, to cultivate collaboration along with our plants.
Awesome. So talk to us and tell the audience about these challenges. Do they have to follow a journal? Is it regular posting? What's the requirements does it cost money? Like, what's the requirements to participate in these challenges?
Totally free. Yeah, no, it's totally free. So to be a full participant, you need to first register and get on the mailing list, and that qualifies you to start a challenge journal. We create a special section in our forum for each challenge where all the challenge journals are housed. And they'll be in 4 different sort of groups there. So all grouped together, the toppers, the non-toppers, etc. And then to be a full participant, it's just keeping a journal. To be eligible for our prizes requires having done a journal update in the last week. So we sort of ask that's kind of your goal, at least as a minimum, should be to update your journal once a week. But sometimes things happen and you might miss. If you're a new grower and you're really enthusiastic, you might be posting twice a day, and that's totally fine too. And you might miss a couple of weeks and then come back to it, and we'll certainly welcome you back at that point. But there's not a lot of requirements. It's just about growing together. And so it really helps to have that journal. We are going to have a number of prizes, and some pretty cool prizes in this challenge. Working with some suppliers right now to get grow lights, grow tents, exhaust systems, other kind of big ticket items that I think any grower is going to be pretty stoked to win. And all you need to do to be eligible for those prizes is just to have kept your journal updated in that last week. So when we pull the sort of eligibility list for the prize giveaways, it's just everybody that's updated their journal within the past week. So that's basically what it's all about. You go around, you can see other people that are growing, similar plants. A lot of growers try to coordinate and grow the same strains and, doing the same training strategies. Like if you've never mainlined a plant before, there's going to be a whole group of growers that are doing mainlines that you can be on the same day of the grow with them and sort of following along and seeing how they're doing it compared to how you're doing it. Or maybe you want to do things a little bit differently, but it's just that whole sense of community around you in a challenge. And, I think that oftentimes my background, I work with farmers. I work with peasant farmers in Mexico and Central America that, are farming for their living, for their livelihood. And one of the things that has always struck me, and one of the big sort of foci of my research, is the community and the collaboration that exists amongst those farmers. And the reality is that in a lot of those situations, they wouldn't be able to survive economically or produce the food for themselves if they didn't have the support of their community. And they didn't have sort of the rest of that sense of collaboration around them. When it comes time to harvest, everybody shows up and sort of works together, and people really feel like they're situated in a community. And when I came to start growing indoor cannabis, I felt totally cut off and isolated and alone. And that's what these challenges are really about, right? It's recreating that sense of community. It's giving farmers, which we're all sort of peasant farmers, that sense of having a larger group, people that you can ask questions for, that you can go to and sort of get support, get commiseration, get congratulations, and to sort of come out of the closet in that sense, in that, oftentimes we have to be somewhat quiet about our grows with the community of people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. So to have a community of people where you can be a farmer and you can sort of share that love of farming and the experiences and the trials and tribulations of it all is what the forum and the challenges are really all about.
Very cool. Very cool. And how can people find more and get involved if they'd like to?
So to sign up for the challenges, come to cocoforcannabis.com/challenge. And you'll find all the information about sort of our annual challenge calendar. We have an annual challenge calendar. We do this 3 times a year. So we have the challenge that starts mid-August, which is the next one. We have sort of our marquee challenge of the year every year, which is the New Year Grow Challenge that starts on January 1st. And then every spring, we do the Spring Autoflower Challenge, and that starts on April 20th. So you'll see this sort of calendar about the Coco for Cannabis challenges. And once you're on that calendar, it's really easy to just sort of stay with it because they all just sort of flow one into the next pretty much. A little break here in July where it gets really hot for a lot of us. But yeah, you'll find all the information about the upcoming challenge, about the groups, and the sign-up form is there to click and sign up. And like I said, it's free. When you sign up for a challenge, you create an account for a Coco for Cannabis user. You have the option of going on our mailing list, but there's very few sort of touches or other shoes to drop. This is something that we put together to really support and encourage community, and it's absolutely in the interest of growers.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Coco. And welcome to the show, all you growers out there. I'm so glad that you are joining me for another week. I have Bill on the line. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you.
Bill's joining us from Orange County, California. I bet it's nice and sunny out there this early in the morning, isn't it, Bill?
It is. It is. Probably in the 70s, I would say.
Oh, we've had beautiful weather here in the Northeast the last couple of weeks. It's probably like 68 outside right now and sunny, and it's going to be low 80s, and it has been for the last couple of days. So
nice.
Summer is officially here. I'll take it. So, Bill, why don't you start us off and just tell us a little bit about yourself and your history with cannabis and what got us to this point where you're on the Homegrown Helpers chatting with me.
Perfect. So I'm, 45 years old. And I dabbled with growing, throughout the years. I've done some outdoor grows. I did a few failed or almost failed, closet grows. And then I had kids. So I still smoked, was still involved, with cannabis, the movement here. And, we saw medical legalization, we saw recreational legalization. And at a similar time, my kids, went off to college. So here I am left with the house, left with free time and a love for the plant. And so I decided to start setting up some environments and see what I could do. And I was online, came across a site called Coco for Cannabis. And they were hosting it was called the New Year's Grow Challenge. And it was really more of like I would say, grow along. And, in general, everyone started seeds on the same day, which in this case was 1/1. And you posted updates, you were able to kind of talk about it together. And so really over the 6 months, I've been building out a pretty, I would say, neat, maybe unique environment here here in my house, which includes a kind of 3 little spaces of some sea green and then a little mom area and then a little seedling area as well.
Great. So you've only been growing or back growing for like 6 months now, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much for joining me and sharing your new grow perspective with our audience. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, no problem.
Why don't you bring us into your grow room? Be specific. Share with us brands of lighting. You have a unique style. We've never really talked to a sea of green grower, but I can only assume that's because you're in California and you feel comfortable. Maybe you have a medical license.
Exactly.
And how many plants are you allowed to grow under your medical license?
So right now in the sea green room, I've got 24 plants. And if you look, it's about 13 square feet. So really my goal was about a plant, 2 plants per square feet. And I left a little room because, I did do some drip manifold systems. I, have a drain, so I didn't want to cover that. So what I did was I've got a pretty large closet with great access up to the attic. I took a portion of that and I built a shower pan in the base. Shower pan's cool because it's all self-contained, about 1.5 feet high, built-in drain to it. And underneath that, I put in an automatic pump. Connected that automatic pump out to my house drain line. So now anything that goes into the water pan, into the drain, gets pumped right out of my house drain line. So set up the shower pan through the whole, cement, the shower liner, everything else, just like you would a normal one. And got all the drain stuff hooked up. And then also did RO. So since I'm close to the attic, close to the water system, I was able to, go to Amazon and really piece together a fairly inexpensive RO system. So I took a, 5-gallon paint bucket as an initial holder that dumps into a 50-gallon trash can up in the attic. Got a little aquarium, chiller in there, and got a submersible pump connected out that, through, was it 0.7, the OD tubing. And then that runs all the way down to my shower pan. And into the shower pan, what I did is built a little PVC frame inside of it. And within that PVC frame, I hooked up 3 manifold systems. What the manifold systems are really, it's got kind of 8 ports per manifold, which allows you to connect a tubing to it and allows you to go down to each plant. With the sea of green, I'm also doing rock wool. So what I actually have set up, it's 24 plants, so it's really nice, uniform 24 square blocks. I've got these Flora caps on top. Flora caps are made by Floraflex. And what it does allows me to put a little clip on the side, connect my drip tubing to it, and allows the water to be distributed, throughout the entire top of the rock wool, so it doesn't get, keep water in the same place and water drains all the way through, through a channel.
Nice.
So got that working. I've got, the pump set up on a timer. So, since I'm doing sea of green, it's, I don't want to say easy, but I don't veg for long. So in this size room, I don't have tons of height. I've got about 5 feet. So I'm only going 10, 12 inches and then, flipping into flower. So usually whatever I condition my rock wool blocks with, I condition it with the vegetated newts. It's got enough to keep it in there until I flip it to flower. So in the reservoir, I only have to start my flower nutrients, which is really nice and easy.
And we just have to take a quick break and thank our partner for the show, AC Infinity. AC Infinity makes the leading fans on the market. And they give our listeners and members 15% off using code GROWCAST15 at acinfinity.com on all of their grow room supplies, the tents, the ducting, the fans, the controllers, all of that stuff, everything you need for your grow room, ventilation. AC Infinity has it, and they give you 15% off. You hear it time and time again on this show. We're getting our growers switched over to them because they're the best. Whisper quiet, fully controllable. I can't say enough good things about them. You hear about it naturally on the show. Like, I promise I'm not bringing these people in knowing that they use AC Infinity. It's just coming up. Use code GROWCAST15 for 15% off all your fans. Once you buy an AC Infinity, you're not going to go back. Now let's get back to this amazing interview with Bill. So I have so many questions. So it sounds like you're kind of vegging, what, for like 2 weeks, maybe a week or two?
Yeah, 10 days traditionally.
Okay, 10 days.
Yeah.
So you don't have a veg room. You're right in there. There's no sense in moving your plants around.
Correct.
Right. So
correct. I'm actually taking them right from the clones. So, I go from the seedlings, and then I can transfer into rock wool or into the, I leave them into the 1.5 rock wool cubes in there.
Yep.
Until I see, roots come through. And then I pre-set up all the blocks inside that flower room and I get all the water conditioning and I just go plug them right in there.
Nice. Did I miss, how big are those Rockwool blocks?
I use the 6 inches.
That you flower in? 6 inches? Okay.
Yeah.
And how often are you feeding through those Floraflex tops throughout the day?
So when they're younger, so I would say for the first, few weeks, every 2 days.
Okay.
Pretty simple. And almost every 3 days, the Rockwool blocks really, 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 really keep moisture in there well.
Mm-hmm.
At the highest point, when I'm getting, heavy bud production deep into flower, week 5, week 6, once a day.
Okay. Once a day. And then with that type of moisture and kind of exposed moisture, do you have fungus gnat issues?
So I don't.
Okay.
I'm actually 100%, pest free across the board.
Awesome.
So it is on the second story. It is inside of a house.
Mm-hmm.
It's zero exposure to the outside. I don't know if I mentioned, but I also have a complete closed system. So I've got no air exchange happening, no outside air coming in. I have AC piping in the room. I have a dehumidifier inside the room as well.
Okay.
So it's 100% complete closed system, and I haven't had any bugs whatsoever.
Do you supplement with any CO2?
No, I have not.
Okay. Have you tested the CO2 in your room?
I have not.
Okay. Opportunities for improvement there with a completely closed system. Maybe but our ambient CO2 levels are typically like 350 to, they sometimes creep up to like 500, depending on where you're at. Testing in my rooms prior to supplementing with CO2 would be down like 200 ppms.
Wow.
And obviously the plants are feeding off that CO2, so it is going to be less than ambient, but supplementing up to even 800 or 1,000, especially when lights on. Supplementing with anything is going to give your plants more CO2 to feed off of, but supplementing up to that level.
What do you think about those grow bags? So part of the, I'm in this chat room at Coco for Cannabis quite often, and I always get people that come in and ask all the time about these grow bags. And it's funny, you get a mixed response. The people that say, hey, give it a shot are usually the ones at the bottom, and no one wants to, throw away their investment. And other people say, hey, it's a waste, worry about everything else first. Would you think for an environment like mine that's closed, that's pretty optimal already, I'm able to maintain heat, cooling, humidity, do you think I'd see value out of a grow bag?
Yeah, so I think both of those statements are accurate, because you do want to wait until your other environmental aspects are dialed in. And if you're not running a sealed room, it's kind of throwing money down the drain, because if you're moving that much air, any CO2 is going right out with it.
Right.
But in a sealed room, and if your environment is even close to dialed in, CO2 is the next step and will absolutely make your plants healthier.
Nice.
And more bud production, heavier weight. My warning to you is, just like making a switch from growing in soil to more hydro application, the plants grow faster and progress quicker. CO2 does the same thing. So I remember the first time I had CO2 in my room, I had a strain that typically was, amber in 56 days. So I'm getting ready to flush, and, around 46, 47 days, I look and I already start seeing amber trichomes. And so I called, my mentor up, and I'm like, dude, what is happening? He's like, well, you put CO2 in your room, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, it made everything grow bigger. It grows faster. And,
funny. I knew size, but I wouldn't think it would mature quicker.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep. So I don't typically see a 10-day speed up in that, but definitely over time it would average out to, a week or so.
Wow.
Quicker progression where you can kind of get things moving along faster as well.
That's great. And yeah, I've actually in that room as well, I would say I have too many lights.
Yep.
I've got, 3 separate 240-watt panels, each with, UV and IR.
Nice.
And so it's really 720 watts from the wall and probably about 1500 par. In the last, run, I had to turn down the lights because I was getting, the tips were turning white.
Right.
Just from being overexposed. And, obviously I can control the heat and whatnot, is okay. So CO2 would probably allow me to push those lights a little bit stronger as well.
Totally. Yeah. And it also allows for a little higher temperature. It actually, some light manufacturers will encourage or insist on having CO2 in higher temperatures. A friend of mine had a full room in Maine set up with Fluence. And the Fluence engineers actually came out because he wasn't having the success that he was expecting.
Oh, how funny, because he's not pushing the lights.
because the temperature wasn't high enough in his room. He was trying to attain VPD, and they were like, no, with this, you need, 1,600 ppms in CO2, and you need these lights cranked up. And, they had his room at like 88, 90 degrees pretty regularly. And those plants were just loving it. I mean,
that's great.
Results he'd never seen before. So, So I think that's a really good rundown of your room. I want to get, more into, the whole sea of green and how you kind of landed on that. And I know most of our audience, like I said, doesn't have that luxury, at least legally, to have that luxury. For the audience, I think in California, most medical patients are allowed to grow 99 flowering plants. Is that right,
Correct.
Bill? Okay.
Correct. Yep.
So 99 flowering plants, you have the ability to experiment. You have the ability to pheno hunt and, flower out a bunch of plants that you don't ever need to use and kind of experiment. And that's why a lot of breeding programs are out there, is because they can have so many flowering plants and not feel that risk. How did you land on the sea of green method, and why do you go through the trouble of flowering out 24 plants? Can you walk us through that decision-making process?
Yeah, no problem. So really for me, I was looking for efficiency, right? So I'm kind of an engineer by trade and got an engineering mind. And when I took a look at the room, when I took a look at the room size, when I started taking a look at my options, do I do one giant plant in mainline or manifold? Do I, take 3, 4 plants? Do I do, 8 and only veg for 30 days? I mean, there's so many different ways to skin the cat, and even from mediums, right? And what's the best one? So first of all, it was media decision. When it came to media, I wanted something that I could have drain through, that shower pan regularly, and it wasn't going to be clogging up and wasn't going to get too dirty and really low maintenance. So I started taking a look, and obviously, soil's out the door, for me anyway. I was taking a look at Coco, and but really, when I took a look at rock wool has nothing running off. I don't need to. I can condition it all right inside that space. It's never going to clog anything. So it just seemed like the easiest decision for me there. So then it was like, well, how about number of plants? There was a gentleman that I was following on Instagram from Knockout Farms, and he's a local SoCal, grower and hash maker, and he was telling me that for him in his smaller spaces, he really liked doing sea green because it allowed him to do different strains. Maybe as a home grower, you didn't want to be stuck with with all one of something. And so then he started saying, but now you got to start having other challenges. Look for plants with similar structure because of height and whatnot. So anyway, I decided, sea greens, I thought I could get the most yield in the smallest amount of space with really the least amount of effort. And so that was kind of my goal in looking at that. I think the biggest challenge of sea green, in where most people I think would struggle with it, is the fact that you have to start with 24 plants at one time. Or if you have a larger space, with 50 at one time. And really, it's impossible to do from seed, right? Because who knows, not only, I guess you can grow all FEMs and hope they all sprout and everything else, and they're going to grow somewhat uniform. But really, clones are the way to go. So that meant I now had to look at providing a way to feed that room clones every 2 months on strains that I'd want to smoke. So
it's a really interesting approach that you took, and interesting, I mean, different from what we typically hear, and it's really just about space usage, where it's an allocation. You have a bigger mom area. How big was your mom area, did you say?
So my room in that area is a 20 by 20 room.
Okay.
And in that room, I've got a 5x5 Gorilla Grow tent and a 4x4 Gorilla Grow tent.
Okay.
And so, within that, I've got in one of them, I've got the fluorescents for all the seedlings, and then in the other, I've got the LEDs where really I start picking moms and really go. First of all, I've only been planting regular seeds, so I've also got to sex them.
Right.
And so I've got probably, I would say right now, 300-400 different seeds and different brands I've been collecting, I would say, over the years. And I started collecting before growing, knowing that someday I would want to grow.
Right.
So now my goal is to take open up a pack, take maybe 3 to 5 seeds. Traditionally, I'll throw those all into, rock wool. I've got one of those large Grodan trays with, I think it's like a 30-site tray or something along those lines, with a, one of the large domes. It's a double-tier dome.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just throw, 10, 15, 20 plants inside there, let them start growing out. And then I start transferring them into either solo cups. So sometimes I'll be able to take, some of those 1.5-inch rock wool blocks and just drop a few of them in the solo cups. And then put a little bit of, actually I put like a little rock at the bottom just to keep it weighted down.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times if it's a strain that I'm really, really interested in, I'll take it and plug it into a larger 6-inch cube, and then start growing it out. And since I have the flower room going, it's kind of cool because I can just grab a quick clone from, the mom, throw it in the flowering room to validate whether it's male or female without having to grow them out too long.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So when you're popping a pack of seeds, how many seeds do you typically start off with? 3
to 5 traditionally, in hopes I can get 1 to 2 female.
Okay. And then what do you do with those? You pop them and, do you start vegging them out at the same time as another run? Like, do you line those up so that you have those 3 to 5 plants and you can put those in your flowering room at the start of another run?
Yes. Well, like right now, for example, I've got my 24 plants of sea green, and they're in day 22 or 23 of flower right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a, 65 to 70 day strain. So I've got, let's say, another 30, 40 days. So in my mom tent right now, I've got one that I've grown out that I'm kind of holding in the back that I'm not going to get rid of. I've got 5 more that are starting to grow out. And right now I would say they are half a foot tall. I mean, they're still little guys. So what I'll do is I'll grow these out. And so let's say I get really lucky and out of those 15 seeds, I end up getting 6, 7, 8 females. I haven't actually gotten that lucky yet, but that would provide a challenge for me. But so what I'd do is I would pick a single, usually I'll do 2 strains. So traditionally I'd look at the best plant between them. And what I'm usually looking for is smaller stature, because, since I do the sea of green, I don't want something that's going to stretch too much. I'm looking for something that I think will do well in without topping, because that's another thing. I don't top anything or touch the plants at all. I mean, I'll thin them out from the lowers and whatnot, but I won't top. So I definitely want to be main stem dominant. So really, I'm looking for a mom plant that not tons of side branching, that looks really healthy, and that's what I'll usually pick in a nice squat. So that's traditionally what I'll pick for that sea of green.
So very interesting. I mean, we don't. A lot of the growers that we talk to don't even have the luxury of keeping a mom. It's like, cutting clones from your veg plants as they're going into flower, so that, or right before they're flowering. How long do you? Well, I guess you've only been growing for 6 months. How many moms do you have so far?
So only one that I've kept.
Yep.
And it's mainly just because out of the last two that I did, she was the best, and I got rid of the other one. Not that this sounds bad, but there's a lot of good smoke out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good weed.
Sure.
And to keep it, and I like variety as well. So to grow a good strain that you like, okay, that was really enjoyable. But there's going to be a really, really good reason for me to keep it around, because next month I'm going to, I've got plenty of that now to smoke. And next time, it's like, well, gosh, I've got something else that's really good to enjoy. So anything that's hard to trim, I guess I'm kind of a pain in the ass here, I'll get rid of as well. So the reason I kept this one in particular is it had really, really, really low leaf to bud ratio. So I was just like, man, you talk about a really cool strain, because I enjoyed it. It's Point Break from Surfer Seeds.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. It was, enjoyable. It smoked really well. And then to top it off, it was a freaking breeze to trim. So that one, I'm like, maybe I'm going to keep that one, because when I looked at the other pheno and then some of the other stuff I had, it just took hours, just miserable. And at the end, you're like, okay, it was really good. But boy, that was a bitch to trim. Excuse my language. But so anyway, so that's in particular why I kept that one. And I think that's kind of, I'm just going to look for something special as I'm moving along. So I like short, I like squat, and I definitely like something low leaf ratio. So that's much easier, for trimming.
Sure. Not to get too far into breeding and genetics, but ultimately I'm going to end in the the Phylos bioscience controversy here, but that's what people are operating certain breeding projects for, and that is specifically to either lessen the flowering time or increase the THC percentage or grow that bud that doesn't actually need to be trimmed after it dries.
Exactly.
Or CBG or CBD or cannabinoids or terpenes, and ultimately what Phylos bioscience was working towards and what they were working towards was never the problem. It was always their business practices, but what they were working towards was breeding to breed out susceptibility towards disease and kind of creating that perfect product that could grow in various conditions and never have powdery mildew or susceptible and could fight off an infestation of bugs.
Right.
And incorporating auto flowers and such, the future of breeding, I guess where I'm getting to with this rambling is the future of breeding is not just like let's grow some dank weed. It is, we're going to be breeding for purpose, and we're starting that, but there's so much more.
I think local breeders should follow that as well.
Right.
Because, if you go on to Instagram, you go on to whatever, the internet, any of these, social media platforms that are dominated, by weed companies and seed companies, you can see that everybody out there is doing a cross of something, and they're taking other people's works and doing crosses and just, hybriding everything. Really, the breeders that I've been appreciating and spending more time to follow, there's a guy named something called Farmhouse Genetics, which again isn't giant, but you got a guy who's small-time breeder that's passionate, and he has a goal. It's like, look, my sole purpose is I'm looking for plants with low leaf to bud ratio, and as I'm continuing my breeding, that's my goal through it. So then it's like you're not just following a grower or someone. Oh, my goal is to show you a picture and hope you can grow this good, and try to sell you through the idea of growing dank weed, like you said. Because truth of the matter is, it's all pretty damn good.
Right.
If you got a good setup and you get breeds, seeds from any of these, decent breeders, man, it's all going to be, probably better than what you would normally get at most dispensaries and most of, what you used to get back in the day from your buddy. So I really think these breeders should kind of pick up on that cue and start focusing on something, right? What makes them special besides growing good weed? Because that's an entry fee now. Everyone's going to do that.
Yeah. You can go out and get a pack of A and a pack of B and cross it, and you're pretty, you're going to come up with something decent.
Absolutely. And I'm a breeder now. Just get a good logo. And...
Yeah, right, exactly. I'm a breeder. I know nothing about breeding, but it's very much like human genetics, where you can have two red-headed parents and come out with a blonde-headed child. I wonder, in the leaf to bud ratio, if you're looking for two plants that have a low leaf to bud ratio, and then, do you get, I'm sure you get one pheno that's just overloaded with leaf,
Yeah. How do you isolate that one trait? And I think that's why the real breeders, you do it through, large pheno hunts of 100 seeds plus. You do it through back crossing and finding traits that you really like and
exploiting those traits, and
exploiting those traits,
continuing to drill down on that particular trait.
Absolutely.
Bill, let's wrap this up with any last bits of advice that you'd like to pass along to our listeners. And where can our audience find and connect with you if they'd like to do that?
So most of the times I'm at Coco for Cannabis within the chat room, and it's OCman76 is the handle. And really, grow together, grow with somebody else. I would say that, when I look at my successes, I crushed it the last run. It was absolutely ridiculous. And it was mainly because I sat in a damn room, a chat room. And if I was having a problem, I'd take a picture, and people much smarter than me were able to chime in and help out. And so, I think really the overall idea is grow with someone, grow together and share information. That's really going to be the key to success.
Awesome. Are you on Instagram, Bill?
I am. It's OCman is my Instagram handle as well.
Okay.
Just look at that. You put me on the spot of what the heck my Instagram handle is, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's OC Grower 76. OC Grower 76. And actually, I've got a lot of the good stuff in my Sea Green and some of the pictures, and taking, as I grow out some of the moms too, I catalog a lot of the stuff on Coco for Cannabis. So
awesome. Well, our audience loves to kind of see those pictures and follow along with grows. So after this post, expect a little influx in followers. Audience, you know what to do. Rate, review, subscribe, and share. And we just really appreciate being able to bring this type of content to you and help us keep doing that. Thanks so much for your time today, Bill. Thank you, audience, and happy growing out there, guys.
Thanks. Have a great day.